Way back when I was first starting to learn how to play guitar, I used to just trust the guitar tabs blindly, until one particular Eddie Van Halen lick started to cast a shadow of doubt on that trust. And then not too long after that, there was another one I was trying to learn that just really totally opened my eyes and blew the lid off everything. Today I'm going to break down these two licks that completely changed my approach to learning every Van Halen song, and maybe it'll do the same thing for you. Alright, let's jump into it. So, this was probably roughly 15 years ago. I finally decided I was going to really just commit to getting the Ice Cream Man solo down. It had always been one of my favorites by Eddie, and I'd picked up various sources throughout the years to try and learn it. I had the Wolf Marshall tab book. I had these tapes that I ordered out of the back of a guitar magazine where they'd mail you cassettes and a little booklet, and you would listen to the guy dictate like literally a lick at a time, and then he'd say, play this note on this fret, and you'd have to write it down in this book, which was actually probably a pretty good exercise, if it weren't for the fact that some of the notes weren't articulated correctly. But anyways, one thing they all had in common is that, after there's that wicked wide stretch lick, and most of y'all probably know what I'm talking about, but it's kind of it's major triad kind of for the most part. But all these different books, tapes, everything I had that lick as 4 notes on every string, and it's a wicked enough stretch in the first place. But then when you've got 4 notes on a string, it creates this weird situation because you got this like toxic relationship between the G string and the B string where you got that major third instead of a perfect fourth, so it kind of throws everything off. So it had me playing something like, I probably can't even do it anymore. See right there though, on the B string, instead of a 16th fret and a 14th fret, you got to compensate into a 15th fret. So it complicated things because it was like you got the wide stretch and you got to do 4 notes on every string, but then on just this one string you got to remember to play a different pattern, and I always struggled with that, especially at the speed it's played. And they actually had a note wrong in that book too, because they had that first lick ending on an E, and really it should end on a B. You always move up a string. Anyway, I'm getting kind of into the weeds on that. So because of that, that one always was really difficult for me. Well, as I was trying to learn it, I don't know if I must have got like some crazy idea to just go look on YouTube or something, because I wasn't that experienced even with the internet or anything at the time. But I came across a video on YouTube where this guy kind of showed me that it's really just 3 notes on every string. And I always was good at like math and number patterns and stuff in school, and so I kind of looked at it and I'm like, I realized it's all the same notes, but because of the fret and changing the string, like instead of playing this 14th fret, he does the 19th on the next string. And then this 15th fret that was confusing on the B string just becomes the 19th fret on the G string. So all of a sudden now it made a lot more sense because it's just the same 3-note pattern on every single string, and I kind of knew that was something Eddie liked to do anyway. And then the bonus of it was it's just so much easier to make it swing and flow like that solo. Whereas doing it with those 4 notes per string, it was really awkward, and because you've got this wide stretch and then you got these 2 fingers, so you're constantly moving your hands so much. So anyway, and I'll have that video linked up in the description. I think it's still out there. There were some other things I didn't necessarily agree with in that particular video, but that lick was definitely like a major epiphany for me. And that's literally when it hit me. No matter where you get the tabs from, they're not necessarily the gospel. So proceed with caution. So once I was feeling pretty good about that Ice Cream Man solo, then I decided, well, let's try and figure out one of these other ones that I always had a hard time with, which one of them was the second solo in Bottoms Up. After he does the climbing kind of open string pull-off lick, this one. There's this lick after that, and I have the way, this is how it's still tabbed on Even Ultimate Guitar. I printed it out here. It's going to be on the screen too, but I still can't do this, but in fact, I had to print it out because I don't even remember how the hell it was, but let's see if I can. Yeah, I don't know. It was one of those things where it's just so awkward. And I'm listening to it, and I mean, at this point, I could already play like I'm the One, and now I could play Ice Cream Man. I could play all kinds of Eddie's licks, and this one just always was like, why is it so much harder to play than it sounds? I mean, it's not easy, don't get me wrong, but I just was like, this just doesn't flow. Something don't seem right. And so back then, I didn't have any fancy tools like Transcribe or even Audacity or anything. I was learning all my stuff with Windows Media Player. But I had recently found out that there was a setting in there where you could slow your stuff down to half speed. So I did that. And as I'm listening to it one day, and I was looking at that tab trying to follow it, and I'm like, this just doesn't sound right. Then all of a sudden, the math nerd inside of me kind of kicked in, and I'm like, wait a second. How come this 15th fret can't be this 20th fret? And then I started to hear the phrasing a lot better just all of a sudden. And I'm like, this has that 3 notes and then 4 notes kind of thing going, like the Ice Cream Man lick. But all of a sudden I looked at the numbers differently in the strings, and I was like, this is like that position he does in Eruption. So I was like, let's try those notes. And it turned out and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, that's so much easier. So yeah, then it actually came together pretty quick for me after that. So I'm curious, has that ever happened to you? Like, you ever found a tab where it just didn't feel right when you tried to play from it? Let me know down in the comments. Or tell me a favorite Eddie Van Halen solo to learn. So that Bottoms Up lick in particular really taught me that Eddie, I mean, as unique and genius as he was, he had tendencies and patterns that he'd stick to just like any great player. Clearly his were different, but he still had his go-to shapes and positions and things like that. And once I recognized that, then I kind of started to notice it everywhere. You've maybe heard of the B.B. King box. I'm not a B.B. King or a blues aficionado by any means, so I don't want to veer too far out of my lane here. But I'm going to drop my pick, and we'll call that good. But my understanding is that B.B. got quite a bit of mileage out of a specific little segment of the pentatonic scale. And if I go into the key of A, I believe it's this position here. I'm pretty sure that's what they call the B.B. King box, just those 5 little notes. And Eddie was certainly thinking outside of the box when he came up with that lick, or that position, I guess, from Eruption and Bottoms Up. But in a sense, I almost kind of think of it as the Eddie box, really, because I see him use it again in Girl Gone Bad. He uses it in Romeo Delight. I mean, we've got already Eruption, Bottoms Up. So that's one of those things he kind of goes to. So major takeaway from this video, I would say, if you find yourself struggling to learn like an Eddie riff or lick, or any artist for that matter, just keep in mind, it might not be you. It might be the source material, the tab, or whatever you're trying to learn from. Anyway, these two particular licks, they taught me a lot about kind of trying to think like Eddie and not necessarily just copy him, although that is certainly loads of fun too. So if this video helped you see Eddie's playing in a new light, go ahead and hit that like button, and it does help my channel. If you're interested in getting Eddie's tone from the first two albums, there's a link in the description for the plugin I've been using over my last several videos. It's Brown Sound 7879 by IK Multimedia. It's a ToneX plugin. It sounds really great. Actually, they have a pre-order also now for the other two that they brought out, the 8081, which is for women and children, and fair warning. And then there's 8284, which is for Diver Down, and obviously 1984. I already ordered mine. They have a pre-order sale. They're like 80 bucks each. They're gonna regularly priced be 100. I'll demo them when I get them. I mean, I just did the pre-order. I don't even have access to the plugins yet, so I'll make sure and do some demos when I get them though. And other than that, if you want to go into a deeper dive on just Eddie's style, make sure and check out my video on top 10 Eddie Van Halen techniques, and that has all kinds of licks and tricks, and that should get you going, and hopefully you'll enjoy that. So I'll see you there or on the next video.